Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our third Thursday at 3. I'm Greg Spaeth, president and partner with E4 Insurance Services. Today, we have a really good third Thursday. It's all about worksite insurance planning, specifically with Cincinnati Life. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, our next third Thursday, we are going to be going back to our live for September event with Life Insurance Awareness Month. So keep an eye out for more details in your email and LinkedIn. Again, thank you guys for attending this third Thursday, as I like to call it, a webinar, podcast, whichever one you'd like. I've got Nate Weathers, our regional vice president, who is actually going to give you some insight on how we actually work with Worksite and specifically around Cincinnati Life and our partnership with them. So Nate, for you, I think the one word that I, as we've discussed this, implementation is probably where most people get lost when it comes to Worksite. What do you think?
Yeah, implementation. First of all, worksite insurance is one of those things that I think is just, for whatever reason, been overlooked for a long time. But the implementation of worksite insurance is not only where E4 can play an extreme helpful role. Yeah, Greg, implementation is definitely where we kind of lose the conversation, if you will. And, worksite insurance is one of those things where it seems like a lot of work. And the implementation, the process, the protocol, what pieces to play, what questions to ask, it really is something that you can't get lost in. But I think you'll see after we spend about 20 minutes together here or so, that it's very, very simple. It's something that is easily integrated into your current workflow, especially with the relationships that you already have, which is exactly what we're going to be talking about today.
Awesome. Well, let's do this. One of the things that we like to do, and I think it actually helps as an advisor, if you identify, and we'll talk a little bit more about identification, but we're going to establish what we would like to call an upfront contract with you as a listener today. Right.
Yeah.
The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk for about the next 20 minutes. And then what we want to accomplish for each and every one of you at the end of this is you should be able to look at your existing relationships that you have, identify potential worksite cases, know whether or not it's going to work, right, pursuing it, and then how we actually here from an E4 perspective can actually come alongside of you in partnership and help you get it from a thought to a conversation, and then conversation to business flowing for you. And there's some key elements in this that I think you want to take into consideration. Number one, this is really important in terms of retention for your clients. Number two, there's additional residual that you'll get by setting up these, a worksite plan for some of your clients that you work with.
Yeah, let me add a third one,
ahead.
if you will. The third one is because you're showing so much emphasis on taking care of the staff of each one of these companies. You also get the attention of the executive level, which we all know gives us some awesome opportunities for key man, cross purchase, buy sales, whatever the case may be, right? Because all of these companies have executive leadership, and because you're showing the interest in the potential gaps that exist within their benefit plan, it really, really puts you in a nice position to have that conversation with them.
So Nate, let's transition to what is going to be the most important thing that we're going to need collectively with an advisor and their clients. What is that one thing that will resonate every time when they're sitting down with an opportunity?
Well, and if you will, please write this down if you're watching this. The number one is collaboration. It's the ability to say, hey, I'm looking at your staff. You've allowed me to get some information on your team. As big as it is, we just finished up a 300 life company. We did one that was about 140 lives before that. but it can be thousands even, right? There's all kinds of opportunities, and it can be as little as 15, which is exactly, I know we mentioned Cincinnati Life before. That's their minimum that they'll actually look at. I would encourage you, and we'll talk about the specifics of this, but it's 15 eligible employees, and we'll talk about what eligibility looks like. But rule number one, if you're going to write something down right now, is get the census. Now, many of you have never done that or had to do that, and that's okay. But your HR person, whoever is working with that group on a daily basis, they have a census. They have to have that if you have any benefits at all, really, that are laid out. So what we're talking about is just getting the information that you need up front to make sure that you even got a solution for them.
So you're putting that kind of as the foundation to pulling everything together, right?
It's a great word. Yeah, absolutely.
So
And so
as
what you
far,
want to do with
yeah, go
that
ahead.
is get the information. And because you're showing that concern and that additional gap filler type solution, you want to say, hey, listen, we've got the ability to provide a solution. So let me explain eligibility real quick. Um, it has to be specific to Cincinnati Life. We have others that we can work with as well. But specific to Cincinnati Life, it's going to be 15 eligible employees. Eligibility is this: it defines somebody that's working at least 20 hours a week. Okay.
Hmm.
So you can have part-time people, just make sure that they're actually 20 hours a week or more. That's really what matters there.
So if you had a group of, employee group of 30,
Yeah.
30 doesn't get you necessarily qualified for Cincinnati Life, correct?
Yeah, great question. And that's where I see some advisors kind of get themselves in a little bit of trouble because they start offering a solution before they actually know what they're looking at, right? So we don't want to do that. We want to determine the eligible population first, and then think of that kind of as the admission ticket to start the process, if you will.
Okay, so somebody comes to you and says, Nate, I've got a company with 30 employees. What's your next question? Or
Where's the
not?
census?
Okay.
Where's the census? Like, and I can help, and I have helped many advisors get that done. Simple conversation. Normally, the HR director is very forthcoming with that information, so we can see what more we can do for this.
So basically, you're taking on the front side of this and really vetting this immediately on the front side, because by having that information, it makes it easier for us in terms of the partnership to validate whether or not this is a true opportunity. And that's where we do part of that heavy lifting, correct?
That's exactly right. And it's the way that E4 just works, right?
Yeah.
We do this with all insurance. We get the information up front. We
Yep.
run informals, we run all the medical records and all those things up front. So we know by the time we start looking at what that solution may be, we already know where they're going to place, right? It's the same thing with this. It's making life simple, like is our mantra at E4, and making sure we've got that information up front so that we've got the foundation, the word that you used earlier, to make this make sense for them.
So from a Cincinnati perspective, right, I'm going to stay on that a little bit. Knowing kind of the rules before you actually say, hey, I've got a sale opportunity, right? What does an advisor need to know, like before they actually go into, like, is there kind of maybe like a checklist or something that when you're working with an advisor, as you've done with these,
Mhm.
kind of walk us through that from your perspective?
Yeah, the checklist, by the way, for those viewing and watching, will be provided for you at the end of this as well as a screen overlay. And of course, you can reach out to us. We can provide that for you as well. But the first thing really is making sure that you've got obviously the eligibility. We know that. We've established that already, you and I today. But we only know that because we have had the conversation with the HR staff or whomever is overseeing that to make sure that we get the census. Once we get the census and we can look at names and hours worked, then we can move forward and say we've got the minimum requirement to start the process there. That's
Okay.
really the turn of the key in the ignition. That's really what you want to have first.
Okay. So one, you've got eligibility, right? The group size. Two, you talked about employee eligibility personally, right? Are they working a minimum of 20 hours a week?
Correct.
Okay.
Next.
What's next? Yep.
Yeah. What's next? Thank you. We're on the same page this morning. This is great. So what's next is now having collaboration with the company. So your relationship as the advisor for that company has to be strong. And what happens next is a layout of about we suggest 4 weeks minimum, 4 weeks
Okay.
of a very simple reminder email that is sent out from the HR director or whoever's overseeing that group.
Yep.
So it's coming from the company that they
Yep.
work for, not from someone who they think is soliciting business.
Yep.
And it's this beautiful parallel relationship that is happening between you working with that HR person buying into this process, realizing that it's going to be a good asset, a good benefit for their people, and then them sending out a reminder email that E4 provides you, something that you don't even have to put together. We put it together for you.
Okay.
That just says, hey, this is coming. This is what it is. This is how you apply. And this is what it does for you and your family. So those 4 things happen really in a weekly email or distribution from the HR manager to the staff.
And then, okay, so that goes out to the employees, the HR
Correct.
directors involved with that. Then how do we get involved with the individual employee and meeting with them?
Great question. So we've got 2 options. We've got the availability to use third-party enrollers that
Okay.
are provided by, in this case, Cincinnati Life or another company. And we also have in-house services that E4 provides as well, which we've just recently done with that big group that I mentioned earlier. So we've got 2 options to do that. That way, now you've got the ability to have us working on your behalf. You have the relationship, and that's really where the value is, right? The relationship and the coordination. But we're doing the work for you, and we're making those connections and having those meetings with those individuals.
One of the unique things I like about Cincinnati Life is that there is an element of family eligibility. Can you kind of cover that as kind of number 4 on the list?
Yeah, this is fantastic. I love this as well because not only can eligible employees have coverage themselves, but they can actually get their spouses, children, even grandchildren, Greg, to have this coverage because it's just part of their program, and it enables you to get coverage that you may not be able to get otherwise. With this
May not even be aware of that,
Yeah,
right? Many people aren't
exactly.
aware of that, right? In terms of having some kind of option. Okay, next, how do they pay for it? How do we make it easy?
Yeah. Payroll deduction. It comes out at whatever their paycheck is, weekly, biweekly, whatever the case may be. Very, very easy. It's very, very affordable. I'll mention that. And for those that have done this before, they understand that that's important. I mean, a lot of times these gaps that are being filled because of this solution are because they can't get insurance any other way. A lot of these organizations do tend to be a little bit more blue collar. And so that enables them to open up solutions and insurance coverage that otherwise they just would not have. And that's important to me. And I know it's important to you, Greg, because that's what we believe in, making sure that people are covered when they need it, right? So that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, payroll deduction.
So can you do me a favor, just expand on this, and then what we can do is we can talk a little bit more about case study, kind of scenario. I think, there was one thing that came to mind for me was, you were talking to some of the employees on the one Worksite that we were working on, and some of those individuals were getting raises, and they were actually seeing how much coverage they could get by doing that. Not that we have to expand on that now, but the uniqueness of this with Cincinnati Life. Talk about employee owned versus employer owned.
Yeah, so that's if you haven't listened to anything we've said so far, please listen now, because this is important, and this is always a distinguishing factor for this type of insurance. This goes with the employee. This insurance coverage goes with the employee. Just because they leave that company, they still have that coverage, which is a beautiful thing. I would say first and foremost, it's voluntary. They don't have to have it, right? And some choose not to. But I would tell you, the ones that understand the value of not only just having insurance in and of itself, but also making sure that their children, grandchildren, spouses are covered in the event something happens. This is extremely, extremely valuable, but it is employee owned coverage, not employer. And that's a very, very big distinction. And I would say, as an advisor and agent that is looking to put this in your practice, that right there is probably the thing that moves the needle the most. Yes, it's affordable. Yes, it's easy to apply and get coverage, but so much of the importance is placed on, well, if I leave the company, I'm going to lose the insurance. That's not the case here. It actually goes with them, which is very, very valuable. I know it would be for my family as well.
So the next question, as an advisor, they're probably thinking about, okay, so Cincinnati has this program. Looks like it's easy for them to interact with not only us and them, to make it as simple as possible for their relationships. One of the things that I would say is, from their perspective, they might want to know, okay, what type of products are available. Yeah. Can you kind of walk through that a little bit?
Yeah, the great news is, and this is another note that I would take if I were listening, it's not just term. A lot of times when you look at benefit packages, it says, annual renewable term or something like that. It's not just term. It's actually whole life. There's some whole life options. One is to age 100, and one is that is paid to age 100, to be very specific. And then there's another one that's paid to age 65. Then you have your 10-year term, your 20-year term, and get this, they've got a 20-year term return of premium. Which, going back to your question, I had the conversations with the last group that we did, where there were people that were getting raises. Just kind of a coincidence, but timely nonetheless. And they said, hey, I just got this raise. This is going to cost me $17 a paycheck. How much can I get? And so not only did they maximize the coverage, but they also chose the return of premium option as well. So that was definitely a win-win for a lot of those employees of that company.
So Nate, part of that process with you and advisors, or with our team, right, there might be some age restrictions with some of these, but make sure that you're contacting, your relationship here at E4, and we'll ultimately get our team members and partners at Cincinnati Life to make sure that we're aligning that properly with the clients that you're identifying. So absolutely. Nate, census first, right?
Census first, Greg. Got to get it. Yeah, that's kind of like I said, that's the key in the ignition. So okay. It's very, very important. Yeah.
Okay. The other that I want to ask you about is guaranteed issue. Okay, what does that actually look like for those that are on here? This might be new to them. How do you explain that to them from the perspective of when they are looking at their clients and the ease of doing guaranteed issue?
Yeah, guaranteed issue. If you haven't done it before, it's really, really simple process. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is guaranteed issue. There is a question or two that is asked, and of course the question is, do you smoke? And that's no surprise to anyone that's been in the life insurance business, but that is taken note of and taken care of through the offering there. Cincinnati makes it very, very easy, because there's really a grid, a calculator that we can plug in our information, make sure that they've worked that 20 hours. Remember,
Yep.
that's a requirement, and then make sure that they're of age. 18 to 50, you're eligible specifically with Cincinnati up to $100,000.
Okay.
51 through 60 is going to be $75,000, and then 61 through 70 is 25,000. And that may not seem like a lot, but funeral expenses, end of
Mm-hmm.
life type things, those are more pricey than they used to be.
Yeah, but
And so
it's guaranteed issued.
it's
That's the
guaranteed issue.
ease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful part about that. So, and you can actually kind of mix and match a little bit as well. So you don't have to choose just whole life or just term. You can have combinations of both, which we've had again in this recent group that we just took care of. They had a few of those that did that.
Okay. Let's transition here. Let's talk about a case study, so to speak. What we did with Cincinnati Life, right?
Mhm.
And the case that you were working on. How did that opportunity begin? Walk me, walk all of us
Yeah.
through kind of how that started, and then how it ended, how you guys got it across the finish line.
Yeah, great question. So, for those of you who already work with companies, you may kind of be doing this the other way around before when I mentioned kind of servicing the staff first and then getting to the executive level because of that relationship. You may already work with the executive level, but have no penetration with the staff, which, by the way, either way will deepen the relationship with that executive or with that company without a doubt, right? So that's an important thing to do. So this came to us by a fantastic agent out of Tennessee, and he works with a lot of mechanical, chemical, um, manufacturing plants, that kind of thing, that have a lot of folks. Even staffing agencies is a great way to a great type of company that he works with and others to look for. But he brought this to my attention. We talked through it. He introduced me to the HR manager, and we got together, all three of us, and we got the census in a matter of 24 hours. Very, very easy. Like I said, any HR director or manager is going to have that information readily available. And then we started sending the introductory emails to the HR manager over the course of 4 weeks, and she would send those out to the employees as they would come across. Any questions that arose, our information was on that as well. Of course, with the agent's information, always keeping us three in sync with each other as we had this communication with the staff. So after that 4 weeks, it was no surprise that that fifth week was enrollment, and that's where it started.
Oh,
And the phone calls start, the meetings start. I would say ideally, if you can meet with the group as an advisor, as an agent on behalf of the company, um, by far and away the best way to handle that. If you've got the ability even to meet virtually, so they can see your face, hear your voice,
yeah.
understand, hey, I'm doing this on behalf of the ABC company, and this is something that they're doing on your behalf because they care about you. Man, it comes across really, really nicely as a solution that they don't currently have.
Good. No, thank you for sharing that. And I like the timeline, right? That it doesn't take as long as maybe some people might think. And just in typical life insurance fashion, it takes about the same amount of time, but you're doing a lot more of
Yeah.
them and actually giving them the options. And there's that interaction where we get involved in helping make sure that they, pick and choose the right option. So Nate, as kind of part of that wrap up, right? So you got advisors today that are watching this, like, okay, I think I know of somebody, or I'm working
Mhm.
with some people that I'd like to kind of take that next step. And what are maybe, as we kind of talked or I mentioned at the beginning, right? What's the upfront contract? How do they help establish, what yes looks like,
Yeah.
what walking through that process, maybe some of the actual language, what would you
Mhm.
use to help them identify the employer number, and then also they might be thinking, about the opportunity. How do they bring it up without sounding like they actually are walking in with another product pitch?
Yeah, no, great question. Upfront contracts are absolutely important. If you don't know what an upfront contract is, it's really just a way of continuing to get affirmation throughout the sales process, right? And you can start that at the very beginning. You should start that at the very beginning, but I would not go in with, "Hey, I've got an insurance product I want to show you," right? I mean, the game's over before it even starts, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
just not,
yeah,
it's not what people want to hear. But if I said something like, "Hey, John, I want to spend 25 minutes with you understanding your current benefit outlay for your employees, and then just seeing if there's any gaps where a voluntary, this is important, a voluntary program is even worth talking about." Just saying a couple of those things the way that I
yeah,
just said that is intriguing. And they're going to say, what do you mean voluntary? And what do you mean gaps? Right? That's verbiage that a lot of folks don't use, and I would employ them to use those types of words. But then when you start hearing about kind of their employee population, payroll administration, then they want to hear what this actually accomplishes for them. And here's the interesting part. Again, this is payroll deduction. It is voluntary. It is guaranteed issue. It's a very simple process. Enrollment for us, enrollment for third parties that help facilitate this process. It's a 5 to 7 minute conversation total. Total. That's
okay.
answering all their questions, all that kind of thing. Go
And
ahead.
I'm hearing
So,
you. I'm no. I was also hearing you. You were planting the census seed in some of the things that you were saying,
yes,
right?
yes, and going ahead and just saying, hey, listen, it's going to take a little bit of communication between you and I, but
Yeah,
it's information that you already have. And so I would just say, hey, one thing we're eventually going to need, if we determine that there's interest from you as the owner or founder or HR manager or whoever the contact is, if there's interest there enough for us to continue, is just get that employee census. Let's look at what that eligibility is. Remember that word.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then at the end of that conversation, we can decide if there's a need, if there may be the need, but the timing may be wrong, or really is there enough to bring in E4 to
yeah.
help evaluate this a little bit deeper, and then of course, I always like to say, does that sound fair? And it's that's your upfront contract, and really kind of getting that first conversation started.
Okay,
Very, very nonchalant, but very important. And you're using certain words in a way that allow whomever is listening, whomever you're
yeah.
meeting with, to see the importance of that.
So, okay, let me reiterate kind of what we've been kind of talking about, right? A little bit. Number one, as long as there is a need, right, and you can identify that there is a need. Second to that is you got to have a viable employee population, right? We talked a little bit earlier about
Right.
15, right? So if you had 30, but you got to have 15 of them that would be eligible,
Eligible. Yep.
right?
That's right.
Don't forget the census, that would be 3. You got to have that internal champion,
Mm,
right, in the company. So from an HR perspective, right, that's going to be your person that you go to. You got to be able to have some type of administrative coordination, and cooperation, right? You want them to make sure that they're emailing it out, communicating it to on behalf of, um, and then you ultimately got to have access to the employees, correct?
yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Okay, and then setting reasonable expectations. Would that be fair?
Absolutely.
Kind of
And
checklist.
yes, got it. That is a checklist, and I'd say you laid that out perfectly.
Okay.
And in the right way, in the right order, right? That the
Yep.
order is as much as importance as is the actual item. But yeah, don't walk into a group and say, hey, let's start enrollment next week. That's just not going to happen, right? And I think it will ease the pressure as well. A lot of times when you're walking into this and you've never done it as an agent or advisor,
Yep.
you don't really know what you're doing, right? So the good part about working with me and my team is that we enable you to see very clearly what each delineation of the process is. And it's exactly what we've been talking about.
All right.
Yeah.
You're saying it now. That was going to be my next question for you is, okay, how do you divide and conquer?
Oh,
What
yeah.
is the advisor on? What is E4 on? What is the, employer on? What is Cincinnati Life on? Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, exactly. The advisor always stays in the driver's seat. And
Okay.
and I know as much as we want to support and really kind of take the workload off, which we do,
Yep.
the relationship is number one, right? We all know this. Opportunity identification is crucial, making sure we're not walking in, not only unprepared, but maybe it's not even an opportunity. We just haven't done our homework up front. And that's a very easy thing to
Yep.
identify. The initial positioning of this solution is extremely important. It's kind of the dialogue that we just had, of opening that up in the right way with words like gaps and voluntary and things like that.
Yeah.
And then just kind of check-ins really. And E4 prides themselves on, we pride ourselves on making sure we have communication consistently and constantly with you, the advisor, with you, the agent, as well as in this case with either the third party enroller, the carrier, or us if we're doing the work for you. So great delineation of what the advisor owns there. And again, don't forget that there's additional planning opportunities that come out of this, because you're going to be talking about kind of your mainstay staff.
Yeah.
But each one of those staff have department managers, and they have executives, and they have C-level, and all those great things, right? And those bigger opportunities may only arise after you show the solution to the staff, right? And that's a beautiful thing. So E4 owns, obviously, doing all the preliminary case qualifications. We do the census review. All you have to do is get it to us.
Yep.
We coordinate with the carrier, and again, we're using Cincinnati Life in this case. So we coordinate with the carriers there. And then really the product and case design, it's already in place. There's no real guesswork. We've talked about it. It's the whole life, to pay to 65, pay to 100, and then the 10-year, 20-year, and 20-year term ROP. And of course, the enrollment planning, how we implement it. I talked about the emails. We give you all that. That's wash,
we do that
rinse, and
pre-work
repeat.
for you. Okay.
Absolutely. And then just the follow through.
Okay. Well, and follow through is kind of like what we're talking about. These are all the do's, right? This is this, do this, do this, do this, do this. What are some of the don'ts, Nate, that you would just want to make sure that if, they were asking, hey, what are some of the things that I should either avoid or don't do this, from Nate Weathers, who's worked on these before?
We've learned a lot over the years in this case. And, the don'ts are as important as the do's, as is mostly the case, right? So don't promise, guaranteed issue anything before we actually qualify the group. And here's the biggest one, and this is the one that we mentioned at the very forefront of the call. Don't assume that the employee count equals eligible employee count. Don't assume that, right? Because if they're not working 20 hours, you got a lot of part-time labor that's under 20 hours.
Okay.
We're not going to have a solution necessarily. We may, if it's the right count with eligible employee count, but not without. I would never promise coverage amounts. Okay. We find that gets brought up, and promises are made without actually looking at the census and the carrier and what the offering actually is. with that. I would also say there's a couple of places that you don't want to surprise the employer with, and the two things: payroll. They need to know that it's coming out of the payroll, right? Meaning that the person is paying, the employee is paying for that. That's important for them to know.
Yep.
Because the last thing you want to do is do enrollment, and then all of a sudden everyone starts getting, an amount taken out of their payroll, and all of a sudden they're calling the HR administrator, what have you. And then don't surprise the employer with the meeting requirement, that the fact that you actually have to talk to the employee. And some may be willing to do that, and some may be not. If they're not, that's okay. It's just not a good fit for them. It's not a good solution. But those are the two surprises: the payroll, make sure that they understand how that works, and make sure that they understand that it's going to take one-on-one with the employee, which honestly is the hardest part, really, of that, is coordinating some of this. And we can talk about that.
But it's kind of more of that, but it creates the intimate relationship in terms of it's a tailored to them, so that they're not trying to, you're taking out the guessing work, I guess, is what I'm saying from that standpoint. So don't promise, don't assume, right? Don't start assume, designing things, that's right? Don't surprise them with something. And that's, that's the navigation part that E4 does, is to make sure that we don't run into the don'ts, but more of the do's when it comes to worksite planning.
Look, one thing before we move on, I also want to offer some encouragement on this. If those few simple things are done correctly, the employee is incredibly grateful, because their employer, by virtue of what you as the advisor or agent have proposed to them, are now offering them a solution that they've never had many times. And we hear this all the time, because we're on the phones with the employee, and they're like, man, I didn't know we even offered this. And so if the communication and the value is really relayed via your communication as the advisor to the staff, to the HR, to the employee, to the executive level, what have you, it's a very, very appreciated benefit that a lot of companies don't have.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, it definitely does create a better, more intimate relationship, and then it also creates a better retention, right? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So that's a great point. Thanks 100%. For bringing that up. So let's bring this home. From a sales perspective and a planning perspective, there's always got to be some kind of like, if you were looking at it from, hey, advisor, this is my call to action to you. After this, podcast, webinar, whatever you want to deem it, what would you say to the advisor? How would you approach that so that they say, okay, I know what my call to action is?
Before you finish this video, and you close it and you go to whatever 100 other things are attracting your attention, just go to your book, think about your book of business, write down one client, not 10, one, and say, could that company, do those employees there have maybe a protection need that isn't being addressed right now? That's it. And if the answer is yes, then I would make a call. Because if you sit on it until tomorrow, you're not going to do it. If you sit on it until next week, you've forgotten what we've talked about. And that's just the way we are, and that's okay. But one client, do they have an address? Do they have something we need to address that's a protection gap? Ask the question. If you think they have it, but you don't know, ask the question, right? If you're not sure at all, ask the question. But that will start something that I think will benefit you greatly.
And who should that call go to, Nate? Who should they call?
When you figure out what that one client is, call us. Okay. Call your RVP and call me, and we'll take care of it. Yeah.
Yep. We will get the right people to actually coordinate this, right? We don't go into the
Absolutely.
game without a game plan, some type of layout before you would do, any initial conversations. We're going to make sure that you're prepared for that. So,
Absolutely.
Nate, thank you. And thank you to everybody that's joined us today. If for some reason, the great thing about this is it's being recorded. You can go back through this and you can listen to it over and over again. And that's the great thing that I love about E4 is that we want to put content out there that is available, that you can go back to and do your own research or do a review. And that's one of the benefits. So we have a whole a plethora of different videos on different topics that you can go to on our YouTube channel. So take a look at those. Make sure that you get registered. You can actually click to be a part of getting these notifications on when we have our YouTube from our YouTube channel. These will come to you so that you can watch them at your leisure. Our next third Thursday, we're going back to the live streaming for September with our Life Insurance Awareness Month. Let me say that again, Life Insurance Awareness Month. Nate actually is going to be a part of that with Jeremy Vidmar, one of our other RVPs, and we'll be hosting the event. I'm not going to tell you what they're going to talk about because I don't know what they're talking about yet. So just, keep an eye out for it. There'll be a lot more details that'll be coming via email. If you are connected with us via LinkedIn, you'll also get a notification for that. So again, thank you to everybody for attending this. Make the rest of your day a good one. Make sure you're holding yourself accountable to your call of action, and we'll help you with the upfront contract with your next client. Take care. Bye-bye.